My name is Ronan. I am Brazilian. I was the founder of AIESEC in Paraguay. I was also the national president of AIESEC in Paraguay from 2012 all the way to 2014. And I want to share a message with you and all the delegates today that I learned from one of the guys who started AIESEC back in 1948. In 2012, I was in an international conference. It was a conference for all the national presidents at that time. It was in Hungary. It's called IPM, International Presidents Meeting. And in one of the nights, there's this beautiful thing that happens, that the conference invites all the alumni of the organization to join people there for a dinner. So imagine that you are now in this conference, and all of a sudden in the evening, all members from AIESEC in all countries of the world who were in AIESEC in 1940 something, 1950, 1960, and all these people who are now they are in their 60s and 70s. Now they're all together with you, telling how AIESEC was back in their day. And so I was eager to connect with everyone there. And I remember I was in the line of the buffet to serve myself food. And there were a lot of people in the line, so the line was stuck. And I said, there's a lot of interesting people here. I'm just going to turn my back. I'm going to shake my hand with whoever is behind me. I'm going to start a conversation. So that's what I did. I turned my back, shook hands. I see this man with, white hair. And I said, hey, nice to meet you. My name is Ronan. And he says, Ronan, where are you from? And I said, I'm Brazilian, but I'm here representing AIESEC in Paraguay. I am the founder of AIESEC in Paraguay. And he said, this is amazing. I am the founder of AIESEC. Period. AIESEC has a symbol that has 7 guys walking. They represent the 7 founders, and he's one of them. It's called John Chopin. He's French, and he was the first president with a full term, international president of AIESEC. And I had a conversation with him, and it was fascinating to talk to the guy who created this organization that today is the largest student-run organization in the world, generating leaders for the world. And of course, I asked him the question that everyone wanted to ask. That was, have you ever imagined that back in 1948, when you guys started this organization, that it would become as big as it is today? And his answer was, of course not. So how, no one start an organization saying, hey, we are now starting the largest student-run organization, will become something like that in the year 2020? Of course not. And what they did is that there were 7 students that were inspired by a vision that something big could happen, something in the future could be different. But inspired by a long-term vision, what they focused was on immediate actions. It was not what they said is that our job was to travel to other countries, to take our friends to other countries and run internships. Run these experiences for cultural understanding. This is our job, and we focus on that. Making the largest organization in the world and a huge impact, this was the job of their circumstances. This is something that we didn't focus on. It happened because it happened. It happened because we are always focused on things that we could do at the moment. This brings me back to a concept that I once learned that I want to share with you. It's in the book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it talks about the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Every person has something that we call the circle of concern. You have that. This is all the things that you are worried about, that you would love it to be different, but maybe you cannot change. Maybe is the COVID situation around the world. Maybe is global warming. Maybe is poverty. Maybe is the mood of someone else. It's something that you maybe would like to be different, but if you make a decision right now, snap your fingers, nothing changes. Most of us put our minds there and put our focus there. And the best that we can do, if you focus all your attention on something that you want to be different but you cannot change, the best that you can do is to complain about it. And so people who really drive change, they focus on a circle that is smaller. So you have circle of concern here. Inside of that, you say I have a smaller circle called circle of influence. This is basically all the things that you can change, all the things that you have influence on. And for each one of you, this is going to be different. For a lot of you, this will be, what are the things that you can change today? Maybe it's your routines, maybe it's your habits. But if you already have a responsibility role, if you are a president of a local committee of AIESEC, for example, then you have the influence of changing something within your team, within your local committee. If you are someone who is leading a project or is part of a team, you have the influence over the process that you're running. And so if you focus your attention on those smaller things that you can change, the magic is that your circle of influence starts to grow bigger. This is exactly what happens with what happened with the founders of this organization. There were 7 guys focusing on what they could do. They were not thinking, man, let's create the largest organization in the world because the future needs change. No, they said, we can travel to other countries to understand cultural differences. Let's do that. And once they do that, they find a friend who wants to do the same and they start sending other people. And once these people come back, they think of creating a little organization. And then the next thing you know, circumstances lead to the largest organization in the world. I wanted to think of a step even beyond that I call your circle of disruption. It's even smaller within your circle of influence. It's something that can generate a massive change. For a lot of you, this will be your habits and your routines. For a lot of you, this will be something that is under your responsibility, whether you have a role in AIESEC or outside AIESEC. Think of something that today you can completely change and solve a problem that you are facing. I think this is where us as change agents should focus our attention on, especially in times like COVID. I was looking forward to see what AIESEC would do in a time like a COVID pandemic, because this is the time that we've all been asking for. We've been developing people with the potential to change and express their leadership capabilities, and this only happens in times of crisis. The superheroes only show up when the villain comes. Now the villain is all around the world. What are you going to do? The point is not to focus on how we solve a global pandemic, because unless you are maybe the head of UN or a president of a big nation in the world, you cannot just change the global situation with the snap of a finger. What you can do is to find problems that you can have control over and disrupt small little things. Now, what I wanted you to think is about problems that you are passionate about solving. A lot of people have this nice speech that they want the world to be more fair, but they cannot just, they don't have passion enough to dedicate themselves to understand the problem. And if that is you, it's totally fine. You don't need to be worried about solving the problems that everyone else is. You just need to be passionate about one specific problem, whatever it is, because your solution will grow bigger. So think of problems. Here's the activity that I propose you to do. Once you get all the ideas and inspiration from this conference, think of problems that you would love to understand. Fall in love, not with the solutions, but fall in love with the problems. List down every day problems that you are facing in the roles that you have, whether within AIESEC or outside AIESEC, until you find a problem that you are passionate about, that you want to understand more, that you want to understand the impact of that thing, that you want to understand how it works, so eventually you even put all your attention into designing a solution. If you find a problem that connects with you, they say, hey, if I solve that, I have goosebumps of thinking whatever the problem is. It can be the smallest one. But if you find something like that, focus your attention there. Because the more you add action to solve this, the more your influence grows bigger. And this is the same recipe that led 7 young people just like you in a time of world crisis to 60 years later, create the largest organization run by students in the world. Inspired by a big vision, focus on small, disruptive domains of action. This is my pledge to myself, and this is my ask to you. Think of things that you can see difference in the future, but focus on your small circle of disruption. And then in 50 years from now, we're gonna have this conversation and we're gonna talk about all these crazy projects, all this crazy impact that you generated and you had no idea about. Sending you a big hug from Estonia. Ronan, I'm checking out.